Caitlin Clark being that golden goose per se, that rising tide that's lifting all boats. I stand by my past proclamations that there's resentment towards her because of that. But I want to take it a step further. There's also resentment towards her because she instigates resentment towards her sometimes.
Stephen A. Smith just said the one thing that lit the WNBA on fire. He called out Caitlin Clark, not for her game, but for her character. Dragged up her college beefs, pointed fingers, and framed her as the reason for rising tension in the league. The reaction? Immediate. Fans clashed, players weighed in, and suddenly the conversation wasn't just about basketball. It was about power, race, and media bias. But of course, it wasn't that simple. Because when Clark finally broke her silence, she didn't just respond, she took over. Now the question is, did Stephen A. miscalculate, or did he just create the league's biggest storyline yet?
And if you look at Caitlin Clark, she was the #1 in fan rank, and we also saw that with the fan voting. She had over 1.29, I believe, million votes just for her to be a WNBA All-Star.
Investigation the WNBA is conducting into allegations of hateful fan comments directed at Angel Reese. It happened after this play when Clark slapped at the ball after Reese grabbed an offensive rebound and had a clear path to the basket. Reese fell to the court, got back up, and tried to confront Clark, but Fever forward Aaliyah Boston got between the two women. Clark's foul was upgraded to a flagrant 1, and Reese and Boston were assessed technical fouls because it contributes to the elevated popularity of the sport. So guess what? Sometimes it might be good not to really mind. I know this is hard. I know this is hard to accept, but sometimes it might not be hard. It might not be bad to accept the role of a pariah to some degree. You know why? Because who's usually listened to? It's usually the pariahs.
Caitlin Clark didn't just join the WNBA, she shook it up. By June 2025, she wasn't just another rookie. She was the face of the league, pulling in 1.2 million All-Star votes. That's unheard of. She brought fans, headlines, and expectations. But with that spotlight came real pressure. Clark was putting up near triple doubles and dragging the Indiana Fever to a winning record. At the same time, her body was taking hits, groin strain, quad pain. Every missed game turned into a debate, not about her game, but if she could handle the grind. Then Stephen A. Smith lit the match. On First Take, he called Clark controversial, said she was stirring things up inside the league. And just like that, an old rivalry came back into play. Smith brought up her past with Angel Reese. Not as history, but as proof. The league was already having tough conversations around race and identity. Now Clark was front and center, not for a highlight, but for a headline. It wasn't just sports talk anymore. It got personal, fast. Social media went off. Fans dropped clips. Old interviews resurfaced. That Haley Van Lith quote, back in the feed, proving Clark's gesture wasn't even aimed at Reese. But none of that stopped the noise. Stephen A.'s take stuck. He gave the public a narrative, and they ran with it. Clark wasn't just a star now, she was the lightning rod, the face of a bigger conversation that went beyond basketball. And whether she wanted it or not, the league was looking at her differently. Media crossfire.
This is much ado about nothing. In the heat of competition, tempers flare. You know, last time I checked, women got tempers just like men do. Ain't no problem. Ain't no problem at all. Ain't no big deal at all. Caitlin Clark being that golden goose per se, that rising tide that's lifting all boats. I stand by my past proclamations that there's resentment towards her because of that. But I want to take it a step further. There's also resentment towards her because she instigates resentment towards her sometimes.
June 17th, 2025. That game was supposed to be chill. Just another night in the season. Instead, it turned into a statement. Clark took an eye poke from J.C. Sheldon, then caught a straight-up shove from Marina Mabry that sent her to the floor. Benches jumped up, fans lost it, and in the middle of the mess, Clark stood up, stepped back, and drilled a logo 3 like she was built for moments like this. No flex, no words, just a look, like, yeah, I'm still here. That shot wasn't just for the scoreboard. It was aimed straight at the noise. But the next morning, Stephen A. came back swinging, doubled down on his take, saying Clark was part of the problem, said the hits weren't random, they were payback. She dishes it out so she gets it back. That was the line. And that's when the real split started. Some fans clapped back instantly. Others leaned into his take. But the vibe shifted. This wasn't about one player anymore. It turned into a fight over how we talk about confidence, aggression, and who gets called out for showing it, especially when it's a white woman in a black-dominated league. The stakes? Way bigger than buckets. Through it all, Clark didn't flinch, at least not in public. In interviews, she kept it tight. "I'm just playing basketball." But people close to the game knew better. She wasn't just hooping anymore. She was carrying the Indiana fever, the league's TV ratings, and now, a cultural flashpoint. And with injuries starting to mount, she couldn't even be on the court to answer back. Every headline, every debate, it all kept piling up. Clark wasn't just under pressure, she was the pressure. And every move she made was being watched like it was Game 7. If you've made it this far, you already know. Want more stories the mainstream won't show you? Subscribe now. We dig deeper, go further, and keep you ahead of every twist in the game.
Indiana Fever announced that star Caitlin Clark will be out at least 2 weeks with a left quad strain, while Caitlin Clark is out with the quad strain. And the reason why is because, let me tell you something right now. I'm not going to go to word hate. I'm not going to be out there like RG3 was saying that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark or other players hate Caitlin Clark. But I will say this. I don't think it's specific about Caitlin Clark. I think it's what Caitlin Clark represents when it was really all said and done. We know what she brings to the table. But people wanted to hate because why? You had a bunch of players in this league that watched this young white girl come along and take the league by storm. And they resented it because they saw the marketing prowess that she had. They ignored the fact that you got chartered flights because of this girl. They ignored the fact that ratings were going through the roof because of this girl. Instead, they resented it because they said, yo, we were doing stuff long before Caitlin Clark got here. And y'all wasn't paying attention then.
July 19th, 2025. All-Star Weekend. No jersey, no tunnel walk. Caitlin Clark is home, sidelined with a groin injury. But she ain't sitting quiet anymore. From an empty Gainbridge fieldhouse, she goes live. Just her and the phone. No music, no sponsor, just silence. Then her voice. Calm, focused, like she's been holding this in. "Stephen A., you keep saying I'm instigating resentment," she says, "but I'm just competing." And just like that, the whole conversation flips. She walks through everything. The Sheldon eye poke, the Mabry shove, the pull-up from the logo. "That's not instigating," she says. "That's playing through." No attitude, no theatrics. Just a 23-year-old breaking down what it means to be under the microscope every time she touches the ball. And for someone who usually keeps her head down, this one hit different. She wasn't clapping back. She was calling it for what it is. The pressure, the spin, the constant twisting of every move she makes. The internet did what it does. 5 million views in a few hours. Sue Bird reposted it. LeBron dropped a quote tweet. Fans flooded the comments. And the analysts? They scrambled. Clark didn't just answer Stephen A. She flipped the camera and took the mic back. No agents, no handlers, just her. She stepped into the media fire and didn't blink. But now that she's finally spoken, the question ain't whether she's right or wrong. It's whether the league, the media, and the culture are ready to actually listen, or if this fire's just getting started.
But what Caitlin Clark has to understand is that it's not really you personally. It's you, the figure. It's you, the prop per se, that is being utilized to address a bigger point. If we could do it, everybody has done it. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and others were trying to make things happen in the 50s, in the 60s. Rosa Parks refusing to give us a seat up on a bus. Everybody knows that was something that was orchestrated because a bigger issue needed to be addressed, and they had to find the right person to address it.
Stephen A. didn't waste a second. Less than a day after Clark's live broke the internet, he was back on First Take, fired up and on edge. "You come at me on Instagram Live?" he barked, staring dead into the lens. "Caitlin Clark, I've praised you, but you don't get to avoid the criticism." The energy? Off. He wasn't just defending a take anymore, he was defending himself. The moment felt different. For once, Stephen A. wasn't running the table. He was reacting, and he didn't like how it felt. Then he pushed it further, way further. On his YouTube, Smith leaned heavy into the race angle, said Clark's identity as a white star in a mostly black league couldn't be ignored. "Don't act like this isn't part of the conversation," he warned. But fans weren't buying it. They saw the pivot, the tone, the way he framed it. It wasn't bold, it was dodgy, a way to flip the pressure off himself. And it backfired. Hard. Hashtags calling him out flooded timelines. The culture clocked it for what it was. Smoke and mirrors. The numbers spoke loud. 70% of ex-users backed Clark. Smith's clips got clowned with memes, side eyes, and filters straight out of TikTok hell. What started as sports talk had turned into a public reckoning, not just about Clark, not just about Smith, but about when criticism crosses the line and who gets to frame the story. And this time, Caitlin Clark didn't just stand her ground. She flipped the script, and the crowd followed.
It was instigated by Caitlin Clark. She got her comeuppance, and she was big enough to embrace it and accept it and say, yo, I deserve it. It was my turn because they got me good. South Carolina didn't do it to them when they spanked Iowa in the championship game. But nevertheless, she comes to the WNBA, and you see a little shove here and there. You see her throwing a little elbow here and there. You see her talking smack. Caitlin Clark does this.
July 21st, 2025. No live, no interview, no ESPN sit-down. Caitlin Clark just drops a highlight reel. 3 deep threes from that Connecticut game. Smooth release, pure confidence. No words, no drama. Just one line in the caption. Instigating? Nah, just balling. That's it. A sniper shot dressed as a mixtape. And it lands. 10 million views in a day. Everyone from celebs to former hoopers reposting it. The internet didn't just love it, it ran with it. And just like that, Clark flipped the conversation without saying another word. The post became fuel. Fans remixed it with edits, sound bites, memes. One version had Stephen A's face fading in over the beat drop of a wump wump. Kelsey Mitchell reposted. Sue Bird co-signed. This wasn't about stats anymore. This was a cultural shift. Clark let her jumper do the talking, and the streets listened. What started as a clapback was now a movement. She wasn't just defending herself, she was flipping the spotlight, turning criticism into content, and dragging a media vet into her world. Stephen A tried to strike back, called her post petty on First Take, said she was ducking the real convo. But his voice hit different now, weaker, repetitive. Like a dude who used to own the room but couldn't find the door anymore. Public opinion crashed on him. 80% of X backed Clark. The more he talked, the more people laughed. The resentment take had turned into a meme. And Caitlin, still silent. Not because she had nothing to say, but because she didn't need to. That silence, that was control. That was power. The season keeps moving, but the noise, it ain't gone. It just shifts. July 22nd, Clark's first game back after the All-Star break. Fever take an L to the Liberty, and when the final buzzer hits, Clark looks drained. Not just from the game, from the whole damn circus. Reporters come with the usual questions. Anything to say about Stephen A? She doesn't flinch. I'm focused on getting healthy and winning with my team. That's it. Smooth, simple. But real ones know. The fight might be over on her end, but the shockwaves are just getting started. This wasn't just smoke with one media dude. This cracked something wide open. ESPN's own analysts started speaking up. Monica McNutt called it straight out. Fans were loud too, asking why one rookie was carrying both the hype and the hate. Meanwhile, the league, eating. Ratings through the roof. Ticket sales up. A $2.2 billion media deal locked in. The W's blowing up. And guess who's still dead center in all of it? That same girl from Iowa with the range and the receipts. But don't get it twisted. The legacy ain't wrapped yet. Clark's still missing games, still rehabbing, still trying to find her rhythm in a league that can't decide whether to crown her or crucify her. But one thing's for sure, she ain't just a player anymore. She's the pressure point, the story, the change agent. And that beef with Stephen A. That wasn't a distraction, that was the moment the whole game shifted. In a league built on grit and legacy, Caitlin Clark versus Stephen A. wasn't just pride, it was a power shift, a battle over who controls the story. And as Clark steps back on the court, the question isn't if she'll clap back again, but if she even has to. Because sometimes silence with buckets says everything. This is just the beginning. If you're ready for the full truth behind the headlines, hit subscribe. We're just getting started.